after 3 with Sheena speaks. She drops 3 and you make moves. You don't have nothing to prove.
Let it kick and if it hits, let it sit. If it clicks, let it hit, let it sit.
On. Hey, microphone check 1 2. What you gonna do after 3? It's your girl, Sheena Speaks. Your friend, your coach, your wing girl. Welcome to the After 3 podcast where we drop 3 and you make moves. How y'all been doing? It's been a little while. I am trying out this new platform and it's just been not being nice to me, but we're going to do what we got to do anyway. Welcome. Today we are jumping into a new topic, and the topic that I want to talk about really came from a decision that I made. I made a decision maybe 2 to 3 months ago that no matter what happened, I was no longer going to take offense. And when I started to really pay attention to the offenses that I was taking, I learned a lot about myself. I started noticing some things. So today we are talking about offense, taking it personal, part 1. And before we get into the topic, I just want to read some definitions about offense according to Merriam-Webster. So, offense, something that outrages the moral or physical senses. The act of displeasing. The state of being insulted or morally outraged. It's interesting how the words moral and outrage keep showing up together. That feels serious. The offensive team or members of a team playing offensive positions. The means or method of attacking or attempting to score. The act of attacking. Assault. Offense is like assault. A breach of a moral code or social code. A cause or an occasion of a stumbling block. I remember a long time ago, I wish I could recall the author, but if you ever find this book, I invite you to read it. It's called Don't Take the Bait. Offense is an invitation. It's an invitation to get upset by something somebody said or something that somebody did. But you don't have to accept every invitation that is presented to you. And what I like about my journey of not taking offense, like I said, it just revealed a lot of things about myself that I needed to work on. So yeah, they said the thing, yeah, they did the thing, but why you're offended, that's your thing. And you need to deal with your thing, because guess what? You can't control nobody else but you. I remember as I have been more sensitive to just taking a little pause every time I feel a little like, And I remember a situation where someone had texted me about something that they were really kind of devastated about. And in that moment, I'm like, oh, wow, I just want to encourage this person right now because they're like going through it. And I just want to make sure I encourage them. So I said some encouraging words. I wish I could go back and look at the words that I said. But when I sent my little encouraging note, their response kind of felt like they was coming at me. Like I felt like it was shots fired. And when shots are fired, you be ready to fire shots back. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. Like I'm sitting here trying to encourage you in this moment. And somehow your tone is making me think that I offended you. And now you offended me. And now I want to offend you back. And now we're not even talking about the thing that's the real thing. So I took a step back and said, oh, remember you said you are no longer taking offense. So it just really caused me to go inward. I said, you know what? Let's think about benefit of the doubt. maybe, you know how when somebody writes something and it was via text, they may read it in the tone from which they think you said it and not really sure if that's what you said. They read it and they're like, oh. And it's like, but that's not how I wrote it. You read it the way you think I said it, but that's not even the way I wrote it. So I said, well, maybe this person felt like I was being condescending, or I truly was being, trying to be encouraging. And it just didn't work out. It just went from bad to worse. And it reminds me of one of my favorite quotes. We judge people by their behavior, but we judge ourselves by our intention. Why? Because we know where we're coming from. We know the condition of our hearts. Other people may not know that. They only go by your behavior. And what's behavior? The things that you say, the things that you do, even the things that you don't say and the things that you don't do. So I always try to tell my clients that if you find that you are constantly in a state of being misunderstood or people taking you the wrong way, sometimes you got to put your intention on front of that and let them know this is where I'm coming from, especially if you have to go backwards and try to clear up a misunderstanding. But we don't always know people's intentions. We only go by, what's observable to us. So that's just an example of just me being on this journey of not taking offense. And let me tell you, there are plenty of opportunities to take offense, but I'm like no longer taking the bait. You know why? Because it's not productive. And the only way to make taking offense productive is if you say, hey, I need to have a conversation. Say, hey, you said this and this is how I took it. Did you mean it that way? Open up the door for a conversation. But as I've been observing myself, the first thing I noticed is how often I was being offended or feeling offended or accepting the invitation of offense. So I took note of that. Like, okay, you kind of like, you testy about everything. What's going on? And another thing I noticed is the more I reflected on the why, because the first reflection is how many times, like the frequency from which I take offense. You could deal with that right there. Why are you taking offense to everything? Deal with that. And the second piece of it is, okay, why did I get offended? And when you ask yourself the question of why did you get offended, on the other side of that, if you are honest with yourself, is the root and the truth of that button that you need to deal with. So it's been a good journey, and the more I focus on not taking offense, the less I'm offended, if that makes sense. So typically we do get offended when, not necessarily what people say. Sometimes it's because of how they said it, right? That's the typical way that we get offended sometimes. But I'm just going to give you 3 quick ways, and I'm going to get on out of here, of other possibilities of why we might get offended that I really want to challenge you with. So the first way is we are offended because it could be that there is a truth that we don't believe, or that we don't accept, or don't want to accept. There are some people who are very comfortable living in a lie. Because one of the reasons is that the truth go hard. The truth is nothing to play with. It really takes a person of courage to be willing to let the truth do what it does. The truth will cut you, slice you, and dice you. But at the end of the day, it don't feel good, but it is good. So you got to let that truth work. But think about that, right? Let's say you get offended at someone. Maybe you ask yourself, okay, I may not like the way this person presented this to me. I might not even like the person. But is there any truth to what they're saying? And another way that I try to reflect on it, and look, this is only if you're trying to go to the next level and be more effective in your life. If you ain't trying to be more effective in your life, then this ain't for you. You could hit pause now. But where was I? Oh, so one of the other things that I like to look at is there any truth to what was said? Sometimes the answer is no. But then I ask myself, well, that's not true at all. But what am I saying or doing, or what is it about me that is causing that person to perceive me that way? Now, this is only if you care about the relationship, or if this is somebody you have to work with and get along with. It's not for everybody. It's not worth all that. Sometimes people offend and it's like, yeah, whatever. That's their problem, not mine. But I'm talking about when you have a situation or a relationship where you do have to work through these things. So ask yourself, is there truth to what was just said? I don't care about the messenger or how they did it. But is there any truth? And deal with the truth. Deal with the truth. So the second way that, we may get offended is because we're insecure. And sometimes, and that kind of goes back to truth, because maybe there's an insecurity that you haven't realized, or that you even hate about yourself, that you wish wasn't out there like that. And then you get mad at the person, you get offended. So it's interesting how, we get mad at other people for things that we already have an issue with. If you know what I'm saying, if that makes sense. So if you find that you are offended and you ask yourself, why am I offended at this? Maybe there's an insecurity, and name it. If you find that you have an insecurity, then do the work. What do I need to be secure in this thing? So let's take weight, for example. This is an easy, big, common one. Somebody may make a statement about weight gain or weight loss, because people try to joke people for being slim as well. Either way, it's wrong. And the fact that the person pointed it out, you get offended. Is there truth to it? Well, yeah, I'm about 60 pounds heavier than... Let me fix my hair right there. Yeah, I'm about 60 pounds heavier than what I used to be. I don't like what they said and how they said it, but they're right. There's truth to it. But then you get offended because it's like, okay, you don't think I know I gained 60 pounds? Why are you announcing it to the whole world? So you're already insecure about it. Because you have some people be like, man, you gained weight, or, oh, you too skinny. And you could be like, and I'm okay with where I am. Period. So some people are very secure whether they're, and I'm just using weight as an example, big, small, short, tall, and some people aren't. So the people who are secure in whatever it is that somebody's calling out, it's not going to bother them because they're secure. But then the ones that it does bother, it could be that you're insecure. And you just need to do the work to be secure. The third way that we may get offended, and this is one that I personally experience, is because you're vulnerable. Now, I've had many situations where I've dealt with certain people, and they're a certain way, and I accept them and love them for the way they are. But then sometimes the way they are, it just don't work for me. And as I'm looking at being offended, how often I'm being offended, why I'm offended, one of my roots was that because in that moment, I was vulnerable. Or in that space of time, I was vulnerable. So I couldn't handle what I normally could handle. And sometimes the timing is bad. People say and do things and the timing is so bad. So we have to really think about, and this is especially when something never used to bother you and all of a sudden it bothers you, ask yourself not only why I'm offended, but this is something that I've always experienced. Why am I offended today? Because you could be in a certain space. And it's okay to own that. It's okay to own that. And offense, like I said, it's an invitation. You don't always have to accept it. And, if we allow offense to dominate, we might miss something that's really meant for our growth. So ask yourself, what offended me? Why am I offended? The next time you feel offended, just pause and just take a minute before you react, because the offense might actually be something showing. It might be because offense actually might be showing you something about you that needs to be dealt with. So if it hit, let it sit. It's your girl Sheena Speaks. Follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram at Trifecta Strategies. Check us out on trifecta3.com. 3, the number, not the word. And just check us out. Come back next time, because next time, part 2, we're going to talk about what do you do when offense shows up. All right. See you later. Bye.
And if it hits, let it sit. If it clicks, let it hit, let it sit.